Hello, welcome to the webinar. We'll give it another, I don't know, 30 seconds or a minute or so, and then we'll get started because there's lots of stuff I want to cover. There's looks like there's a few more people just joining, and then we'll get underway. The format of today is it should take about 45 minutes to an hour, and really it's going to go into quite a lot of detail about SEO. So how electrical, fire and security companies can rank well in search results. Lots of these things you can find online if you search, but it's very hard to find anywhere that says, do this, do that, do this, and that will improve your search ranking. It's quite tricky to actually do that. So what I'm going to show you is what we do. We only work with electrical, fire and security companies. So these are things that work for our customers. And I'm going to try and go through in some degree of detail each area and sort of show you how it works. So just give it a little bit longer, then we'll get underway. Excuse me. Right, okay, let me start by sharing my screen. There we go, hopefully you can see that all right. So just very briefly who we are. I just mentioned through my preamble, we're an online marketing company and we focus on the electrical, fire and security sectors. So we just deal with businesses in those sectors. As a result, we really know what works well. And today I'm going to try and cover how we go about doing SEO, search engine optimization for our customers. So how we get them to rank well in Google results. And I'm saying Google there because really, if you get it right for Google, it will work for Bing and the other search engines too. So we tend just to focus on Google with the bulk of our efforts, knowing that it will work for others too. What I'm going to show is some quite straightforward stuff that's probably widely known, but also a lot more sort of detail and in depth. Now, I hope most of these things you can do yourselves. They do take time, they are a bit tricky, but really if you were to go through them, you should be able to get them all to work yourselves. I know some people outsource it to other companies, and I'm hoping that this will give you a way of sort of auditing what the company is doing for you to see if they are actually doing what they should be doing. So let me dive in. The things I wanted to try and cover today are as follows. What Google is looking for, so what Google wants to find to rank your website well, what people search for, so what people are actually typing into the search results boxes, some little secrets we have on ranking well in local search results in your local area within about 3, 4, 5 miles of where you're based, the importance of online reviews and citations, which are directory listings, how to structure your website in terms of the actual layout of the pages and then the whole site itself, the best way of structuring it to rank well in search results, and then the content that goes on the website, and also what we call off-page SEO, which is things that aren't on the website, so elsewhere, so things like reviews, social media, things like that indicate to search engines that you are a good company and that they should rank your website highly. Just in terms of Google and why we focus on Google, there's sort of two things. One is sort of a more general one. The latest results show that nearly 100% of people will search online to find a local business because there aren't many other ways of doing it. If you don't know somebody already, if you don't have a recommendation from a friend, there is no yellow pages coming through the letterbox anymore. There are local newsletters and local newspapers, etc. But most of the time, people will type into a search engine something like CCTV installer near me and find a company that way. We ourselves find that people use Google about 9 out of 10 times. So we look at the data about once a year for all the websites that we run, and about 91% last year were using Google as their search engine. Therefore, we tend just to focus on Google, knowing that if we get it right for Google, it'll work on Bing and the others as well. So looking at it from Google's perspective, Google are the world's biggest advertising company. That's where they make their money, or at least 80% of their money. It comes from advertising. There's other things they do, such as data and so on, but 80% of their money is coming from advertising. And in 2021, they made $210 billion from advertising. I don't know what the numbers are, but I don't think they paid very much in tax over here, but there we go. what they're trying to achieve, therefore, to make all that money is people clicking on their adverts. They want to show you a search page and they want you to click on the adverts because then they earn a bit more money. So I think we always have to look at it from Google's perspective. So what are they trying to achieve? And therefore, how will they choose your company, your website as the one to show at the top of the search results? From Google's perspective, they want to be the most used search tool. To make all this money from advertising, they need us to keep on using Google all the time when we're searching for something, whether it be a local physio, we're looking to move house, or a new restaurant. They want us to come to Google and use Google search tool for finding all those things. So for that to happen, they've got to keep on delivering good results, and they need people to keep on coming back. If you used Google to find a restaurant and it wasn't very good and you were disappointed because you searched and it didn't really give a good result, and you searched again and again and again, you likely wouldn't go back next time. For anyone a little bit older, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, Yahoo was the big search engine. Everyone used Yahoo. They're almost invisible now because they got it wrong. The results they were giving weren't very good. Google came along, nice and simple and straightforward, easy to use, gave great results really quickly. So people moved over to Google because we don't want to have to search to find the results we want. We want them presented easily in a simple format. So in terms of the way Google structures their page, and this does change from year to year, it seems, currently the page is set up as follows. Just find my little pointer. Oh, I can't find my pointer, sorry. Up at the top, we have what are called local service ads. There we go, it's just appeared. Local service ads. Now, these are really only relevant for the electrical sector. They came out in the US about 3 years ago, and Google brought them to the UK about March of last year. And if you search for electrician or electrician near me, something like that, you'll get at the top here 3 local-ish electricians. And people pay a fee every time someone clicks on one of those and makes an inquiry. Then we've got the standard Google ads, which used to be called pay-per-click, where every time someone clicks on one of these adverts, they pay the company advertising pays £1, £2, £3 to Google. Then we've got directories, Check a Trade, Trust a Trader, etc. Local search results, so companies typically within 3 or 4 miles of where the searcher is, and then the normal search results from there onwards. Roughly 75% of the clicks are on one of the normal search results. So around, depending on what the search is, 15, 20, 25% are on one of the paid adverts or one of the directories. And then everything else, somebody's either coming down to one of the local companies or one of the normal organic results thereafter. So that's what we're really talking about today. That's what we're trying to target today, is getting websites ranked in those organic free search results. Before looking at how to do that, I think it's important to look at what people are actually searching for, because there's no point deciding this is what we want to rank for if only 10 people search for it every month. Far better to aim for the things that are searched for a lot, and therefore if you do rank well, you'll get lots of visits to the website and therefore lots of inquiries coming in. So the most searched keywords, and these lists are on our website, I'll show you where in a moment, but for electrical companies, the most searched one is electrician near me, which is searched about 60,000 times a month. Electrician is searched about 40,000 times a month. And then coming down to things like commercial electrician is about 1,000 times a month. We try and update these every 2 or 3 months because they're always changing. Things like EV charger, car charger, they're on the up with all the new electric cars being ordered and the cost of fuel at the moment. But these currently are the most searched keywords. And therefore, when we're looking at a website in terms of search ranking, we're trying to target these words. Now, we're not trying to be #1 UK-wide for electrician because the competition will be huge for that. However, a company in Leicester, we want them to be ranking for electrician in Leicester, or someone searching in Leicester, searching for electrician to find them in that area. For fire extinguishers are the biggie, fire doors. Fire alarm gets about 15,000 searches a month. And then, we go down, fire alarm testings around about 1,000, same with fire alarm installer. One thing we're always looking at as well is what's the motivation behind the search. So fire extinguisher could be almost anything. It could be a little one for the garage, for a caravan or whatever. Whereas a fire alarm installer is probably looking for a company to come along and install a fire alarm. So that's a good business inquiry. So we're going to target this sort of search rather than the more general searches. Things like testing, where are we? Fire alarm testing is a great one. Fire door installer is a good one. So we're always targeting the ones who are actually looking for someone to do something for them. Same with security. The biggies are CCTV and security cameras. CCTV is searched, I think it's about 40,000 times a month. But that could be somebody worried about Big Brother and all the cameras around their local town watching them. It's not necessarily somebody with a real business inquiry. Whereas if we come down to CCTV installer, which is searched about 8,000 times a month, we know that someone typing that in probably has an interest in, one of our customers, in one of you, that could go along and install a CCTV system for them. These keywords, let me just show you where they are on the website, if you do want to download them. So we've got a resources section on our website, and there's the top electrical SEO keywords, top fire and security SEO keywords on there. We're going to shortly update these again. We last updated them about 3 months ago, so they are due for an update, and we'll probably split out the fire and security ones into 2 separate categories next time. But if you do want them, they're on the website. There's a list of them. You can also download a copy as well if that's of use. So let's talk about SEO itself. So before I go into how to do SEO, how to get your website ranking, let's just start off with the different types of SEO, because there really are 4 main areas. First of all, what we call on page, which is what is on the website itself. So the text, the titles, the images, and so on the actual website. Second one is off page, which is things outside the website, things like reviews, things like social media, where they're indicating, here's your website, here's something about your company, and they're sort of channeling people back to your website. Then there's technical. And by technical, we're talking about things like how quick the website is, how fast it downloads, how well it works on mobiles, that type of thing. And lastly, local, which is ranking on Google Maps in your local area. Now, I did a webinar on Google Maps, I think it was about December time. So I'm not going to go into too much detail, but there are some key things you should be doing to rank in your local area. They're quite straightforward, and most people should be able to do them themselves. And if you can rank in the top 2 or 3 results within, say, 4 or 5 miles of your office, it's amazing the difference it will make in the terms of number of inquiries you'll get. So I'm going to show you those as well. So let's start off with the on-page SEO. Now, when we're looking at how we're going to get a company to rank well, for each page on the website, we're picking 1 primary keyword and up to 3 or 4 related ones. So, for example, we might pick CCTV as the primary keyword, and let's say we're targeting an area. We might use the location's name, so Manchester, Leicester, wherever, or we might choose other words like installer, system, camera, things like that, and then use 2 or 3 words together. So CCTV, system, installer, something like that. So we've got 1 main word, and then we're adding on some more sort of secondary related words. Now, the main word, we want to have it in the title of the page, in the description of the page. We want it to appear a number of times throughout the page. This meta title and description, I'll show you in a moment where they are, but they're actually within the code of the website rather than in the text of the website. So I'll show you where they're found, and I'll show you how to check if your website has them as well. The keyword we also want in the URL. So it's website.com/CCTV-install. We want the URL to have the keyword as well, because it's an important indicator to Google that this website is about this particular, this page is about this particular keyword. We also wanted in what's called an H1 heading. On a site, you can have a number of different types of heading. Then they're named from H1 down to H6, H1 being the most important, H6 being the least important. You should only have one H1, and Google uses that as an indicator of what the site's all about. And in that H1 heading, we want to have about 4 or 5 words, and those 4 or 5 words being the keyword and the related keywords. So it shows to Google, this is what this page is all about. H2 headings can be used for subheadings. So we have our H1 heading, then we have a bit of text, and then we have an H2 heading, a subheading, a subtitle, and a bit of text there. And we can use those H2s a number of times. And we're using them to emphasize to Google how important the words are that are in the subtitles, and therefore important for our search ranking. But that's not too confusing, but I'll show you that on a real site in a moment. The next thing is we want to have at least 300 words, and that's the bare minimum on the page itself. And we also want the keywords in the very first paragraph. So Google's looking at the text on the site, and it knows whatever's mentioned at the top, at the beginning, is more important than what's mentioned at the very bottom. So you need to make sure the keywords are at the beginning. 300 words is the bare minimum for me. I prefer nearer to 500 words on a service page, because then you can use the keywords several times without it reading poorly. You don't want to keep on saying CCTV, CCTV, CCTV. You need to spread that out throughout the page. You can also have images, and those images can be named with your keywords, and links between pages that also have those keywords on them. So let me show you an example. Now, I did a webinar last month on kind of the whole area of online marketing. I use this one, so forgive me if you saw that one and you've seen this before, but this is quite a sort of a simple example of how it all fits together. So first up, we have a thing called a meta title, which is in the code of the website. And if you go to your site and you just hover over the top here, the meta title will show up. So for this particular company, we're aiming for intruder alarms, but we know burglar alarms are also quite well searched, and we're targeting these locations. You are limited in how many words you can have in there. It's based on characters. Typically, it's about 8 or so words, but it depends on how long the words are. So we've shortened Hertfordshire to Herts, partly because it tends to be searched more like that than Hertfordshire, but also to try and keep the number of characters down. So there's our title, and this page is about intruder alarms. Then we've got the URL, says intruder alarms in it. Here's our H1 heading, intruder alarms. These are our H2 headings. So these are sort of related words that are important. What we've tried not to do is go too crazy with our keywords. So if we put in here new installations of intruder alarms, survey and design of intruder alarms, it becomes, well, there's a danger of it's going to be counted as spam, and also people looking at it will think, well, that's daft. Why you keep on saying the same words? We need to appeal to Google, but we also need to appeal to people, because we want people to fill in the contact form, and we want people to phone up. So we need to be sensible with how we word these things, but at the same time have enough in there to to get the search ranking up. Now you can't see it because it's hidden behind here, but intruder alarm is in this line of text here, so it's in the sort of the first paragraph of the text. And then lower down, so we've on this site, we've got about 700 words of text in total. And I was mentioning links to other pages, and here are the links. And what's good about these links is, so this one here, it's linking to the fire alarm page. It's going to a page called fire alarm. The link is called fire alarm. It's indicating to Google that fire alarm is relevant to this website. Same with CCTV systems, electrical, exactly the same. It's linking to that page. So we're saying to Google, look, this is what this website, this page is all about. The way we sort of build up the wording for our keywords and our targets is as follows. So we're trying to rank for Leicester CCTV installer as an example. We're going to have a page called Leicester CCTV installer. So we'll have a page for CCTV, but we're going to have a separate page for that location, that we're targeting at that location, because our CCTV page is aimed at all different locations. So we can't list every single place we want that page to rank in, but we can have an individual page for the key areas. So Leicester being a large place, we're going to have a Leicester page. We're then going to have the title, and we're going to have Leicester CCTV installer as the very first words in the title. And this is in the meta title that's in the code of the website rather than shown on the page. And we're going to have some additional words. So in this case, domestic and commercial security cameras, because they're related keywords. We don't want to just spam CCTV. Once is enough. We don't want to keep on saying CCTV, but we want to have other words that someone might search for, such as domestic CCTV installer, commercial CCTV installer, or security cameras, or wherever it may be. Then on the page itself, we've got our H1 heading, our most important heading, and we're going to call that CCTV system installer in Leicester. If it was a CCTV page, not focused on the location, we wouldn't have that part in there. We just stick with these words, but because it's all about ranking in Leicester, we're going to have Leicester in that heading. And we're going to have some secondary subtitles throughout the page, things like these, maintenance, domestic, commercial, etc. Whatever sort of keywords we want to try and rank for as well, we're going to use them in the subheadings. Images on the page, we're going to name with a CCTV related term, and we're going to have at least 400 or 500 words on the page too. Now, there's a good little tool we use for checking how pages are at the moment. Let me show you that. Now, I'm going to give you an example. This is a company I spoke to, or that called a little while ago, called Protect Secure Systems, who use somebody else for SEO. So I'm just going to use them as an example of how to use this tool. It's called SEO Meta in one click. And if you search for that and then click on this bit here, it's a little plugin that goes on Google Chrome's browser, and you can use it to find out all about your website. If I just move that down here, it becomes this little red S here. So we go to this website, and I'm just using them because I spoke to them recently, and I remembered their name, and they've got a CCTV page here, which is ideal for our little test of what we're doing. So I've clicked on the little S, and what it's telling me first of all is the title of the page is CCTV Protect Security Systems. That's our first thing. That's the most important thing, is the title. That's what's up here. You can get by hovering on there. And as I mentioned just now, you've got about 8 or 9 words, depending on how long the words are. I'm not a fan of putting the company name in there unless the company doesn't rank for its own name. So if you were a very generic name like CCTV Installations Limited, you might want to have your name in there. But if you're a name like Protect, which is a bit unusual, personally, I wouldn't bother with the name in there. I would have CCTV installer, and I'd be talking about things like commercial, domestic, whatever the focus is. I'd have my 7, 8, 9 keywords focused on what really matters rather than the company name. The description, it's come up in red here because it's a bit too long, but that looks fine to me. That's good enough. Sorry, it's come up here because it's a bit too short. Actually, it needs to be longer than that. The description again is in the code of the website, and it appears on the Google search page. So if I were just to put in here CCTV installer. Let's come down to the search results. Let's try to find a regular company. Here we go, this one here. So there's the title. That's how it displays here. And this is the description underneath. So that's what we're doing. These 2 bits go into the code of the website. So if I come back to Protect, so that bit there will appear as a top line in search results. This will appear as the bit below. And Google's looking at both of these, and it's taking a large indication of what your company and what your website's about from the words that go in there. So it's important to get them right, get the keyword at the beginning, drop the company name, and have other useful keywords. Now, a few other things on this little tool, because it's a useful thing. this is a bit old-fashioned now, but you can list keywords in the code of your website. It's a bit pointless because people used to use it for spam and would list hundreds and hundreds of keywords. So as a result, the search engines don't use it anymore. So we tend not to even bother with those. The URL here, here's to my mind, they're missing a bit of an opportunity here. So their URL is, as you can see here, CCTV. Probably better to have a bit more there. So let's say they're aimed at commercial, it would be commercial CCTV, or maybe CCTV installer, just adding an extra 1 or 2 more keywords in there. You don't want to have too many. You don't want to have 7 or 8, but you could get away with 2 or 3 keywords in there and it would work a lot better. Down here, it shows if you're using the different heading tags. So I mentioned they go from 1 to 6. 1's the most important, and I'm going to assume this is a heading 1 here. But they're missing heading 2. They don't have any heading 2s. They've done them all as heading 4s. So what they ought to be doing really is having this as your H1 heading, the most important one, and then this should be an H2 one. And if they've got any others, that's all they've got. All the subheadings down the page should be H2, and personally, don't even bother with these lowly ones unless it's for something simple like get a free quotation, something like that. The other little thing on this tool is that it tells you what your images are called. So on this website, there's a couple of things that stand out to me, which are they've named the images. Alt stands for alternative. So if an image doesn't show up, it will show this text instead. So it's important to have a name for every image because Google is looking at words rather than pictures. So it can see what an image is called and it knows, that's what the image is about. So, you give an image a good name. However, what you should also do is have the URL named as well. So this image here, let me just open so we can see which one it is. Okay, so this image here is called group-13, which means nothing. This image should have a name. Let me just get back to that. It should be called Access Control Solutions. It should match whatever's in the alt tag. So every image on your website should have a name. The URL, the image itself, the location of the image should have a name. The alt tag should have a name. It should have a title as well. And by doing that, you're saying to Google again and again and again throughout the website, this is what we do. This is what we're about. If you're focused on Leicester, then Leicester goes into here, Leicester Access Control Solutions. If you're just focused on a general CCTV page, then maybe it's CCTV installers, things like that are used. So that's SEO Meta in one click. We use it a lot for a very quick and easy way to see what's happening with a website and any errors they're making. A few key points on what should go onto your site. The most important one is don't overuse keywords. We see this again and again. Companies, they spam their sites. They put the keyword in again and again and again, thinking that by doing that, then they're going to rank #1 because they've mentioned it so many times. It doesn't work. It does the reverse, and you get bumped down the search results. Same with locations. Just giving a long list of all the locations, every single town near you, doesn't work at all. It has the opposite effect. There was a site we came across about 2 weeks ago, and I was talking to the owner of the company because he was getting very, very few inquiries, and he'd paid a company overseas to do some SEO for him. And when I looked at the site, he had pages named electrician near me. So they'd taken the biggest search was electrician near me, and they called a page electrician near me. And on that page, they had a list of every single town with a population above about 3,000 or 4,000 within 30 or 40 miles of him. So there was no text on there, just a list of towns. And that will never, ever get ranked. Google will see it's spam. It's very obvious spam. Elsewhere on the site, there'll be a page about, I'm trying to think now, I think it was domestic electrical. And the word electrician was used, I think it was 27 or 28 times in about 200 or 300 words of text. So every 7th or 8th word, the word electrician came up again. And it's such obvious spam that Google will pick it up. And from a person's point of view, when you're looking at the website, it doesn't make for nice reading. You can't read it because it doesn't really make sense. Someone keeps saying we are a commercial electrician, we're a domestic electrician, again and again and again. It's very, very hard to read it. So the most important thing we always suggest is when you write the text for your website, write it for people, not for search engines. Google will figure it out if you do all these things like having the right words in the titles and the headings and everything else. But the actual text of the website, write it for people so it reads well, because they're using things like readability tests to see how easy it is to read. And if it's written naturally, then it scores highly. If it's stuffed with keywords, it scores very lowly. One other thing that is well worth doing is having a regular blog, having a regular news section on your website where you're updating it on a monthly, say, basis. The reason for this is that the fresh content you're adding to the site triggers Google to come back and crawl through the whole website all over again and look at what's going on there. And by continually updating the site, Google's continually coming back and it's helping your search ranking no end. Even to the point where you have a service page, don't build the site today and then change nothing for 5 years. You've got a page on fire alarms, add a bit to it 3 months down the line, 6 months down the line, change the photos over from time to time. All those sorts of things make the world of difference to your search ranking. Within blog posts, news posts, you can also target keywords in much more detail. So if you've got a page on fire doors, you're going to be talking about what you do with fire doors, your external fire doors, internal fire doors, etc. You're going to be talking about your services, why you're a good company, all that type of thing. On a blog page or a news page, you can talk in far more detail about why fire doors are important. You can talk about statistics on fires, how they work, the technology behind them, all that sort of stuff in great detail. You can fairly easily put together what will be a 700, 800, 900 word post all about fire doors using your own knowledge of them and your own experience of them. And that level of detail is what Google is looking for and will rank high in search results, because they're trying to answer the question people are asking. So if someone's asking a question in a search engine of how do fire doors work? Are fire doors good? Things like that. And then they can take them to a page with that amount of content on. They can be fairly sure that you're going to be answering the question someone is searching for. And that's the whole goal all the time with Google, is to answer the questions so people keep on coming back using their search engine, and therefore now and again clicking on adverts which make them a bit of money. One way of deciding what to do a blog about is this. What have we got here? Here we go. One I prepared earlier. So think about things people are. So house rewire, that's a pretty standard thing. So if I search for house rewire, a little way down the page, Google gives me a good pointer. People also ask, is it worth getting a house rewired? What's involved in a house rewire? How much does a house rewire cost? These are ideal titles for a blog. Let's have a look at fire doors, see what it comes up with for fire doors. What are the rules for fire doors? How do you know if it's a fire door? Do fire doors have to be self-closing? Straight away, somebody that's working for a company doing fire doors can answer these really quickly, but you can take these as sort of pointers in terms of what to write in a blog post. So you could literally write a blog post on what are the rules for fire doors, and you can talk about that in great detail. And you know that this is what Google is looking for, because this is what people are asking. So that they're giving you a good sort of pointer there. And we do this again and again and again. And we'll type in the sort of search we want to rank for, and then we'll have a look at what people are asking, what people are searching for. Changes over time, so we do this fairly regularly. So we keep quite a comprehensive list of all these different questions that people are asking. Another good suggestion always is to use video in blogs. It's often difficult to sit with a blank sheet of paper and write a 500, a 700, 1,000-word article about a subject, because it's boring. There are people that can do it. We employ copywriters who are fantastic at that sort of stuff. But speaking personally, it's very, very difficult to sit down there and write. I know all about SEO and so on, but to sit there and write about SEO is quite tricky. However, I can talk about it, and it's quite easy to get your phone, talk into your phone, record a video about whatever subject you want to. It doesn't have to be very high production values and so on. It doesn't have to be a perfect background, perfect lighting, etc. It just needs to be you talking about what you know about, offering useful information. Once you've done that in a video, there's various online software. There's one we use called otter.ai, which will transcribe the video into text. And very quickly, you've got a video with a load of text that can become a blog, and you can put the video at the top. You can have it on YouTube and then shown on the top of the blog. And then underneath is the text of the blog. So you're doing two things. One is for your customers, you're showing them a video that they can watch and easily learn about the subject. And for the search engines, you've got all these words down below, and you're bound to mention the keywords that you want to rank for again and again and again in them, but in a natural way, without sort of stuffing the keywords in, CCTV, CCTV, CCTV. You're mentioning it naturally throughout the text because of the way you've spoken. So it's quite an easy way of doing it. And being video, you can trial and error. You can record one and you can look at it afterwards and think, oh, that was rubbish. I ummed and I erred too much. So I'll have another go. And with a bit of practice, it gets better. But it doesn't really matter if there are ums and ers in there. I mean, this webinar, I'm recording it and we'll send it out as a replay afterwards. And there'll be hundreds of ums and ers in there because I'm thinking what to say as I'm talking. But that's natural. That's how we as humans speak. So it's all okay. Last thing on blogs is quality is key. So if you're going to do a blog, make sure it's good and useful and valuable, and avoid duplication. So there's always the sort of thought, well, why don't I just go and find somebody else's website, copy it and paste it on mine? Don't do that, because one of the things Google is doing is it's looking for plagiarism all the time. And if it finds you're matching somebody else's, it can easily see which one was done first. And if someone did theirs a year ago and you did yours today, they're going to know straight away that you've just copied theirs, and they'll punish you accordingly in the search results. So that's on-page SEO. Let's talk about the sort of the technical side of it. There's a few factors involved. First of all, Google wants websites to load very, very quickly. One of their objectives is that they want you to go from the search page to the website in the minimum number of seconds. If it takes too long, then you'll think, well, that's not very good, and you'll look for someone else. And their concern is that you'll blame Google because Google's given you a bad site to visit. It's their fault because it's taken too long to open, rather than it being the actual website's fault. So they don't like listing websites that are slow. They also want mobile friendly. Now, Google does take the view that more people are using mobile than desktops. I think their data is 55 or 60% of people use mobiles now. We find for our customers, actually, depending on whether they're domestic or commercial, if they're domestic focused, about 60% is desktop or laptop and about 40% is mobile. If they're aimed more at the commercial market, then the mobile use drops a bit further down to about 30%. So we sort of take the view desktop is more important than mobile, but Google takes the opposite view. Mobile is more important because they're looking for, or they're talking about every single company. So the person, out and about looking for a restaurant, looking for directions or whatever it may be, a lot more people are using mobile for their searches. So therefore your website has to rank well on, has to look good on mobile and be easy to use for them to rank you well. You also need what's known as an SSL certificate, which is the security certificate at the top. Let me just show you what that is, just in case there's any questions on it. So if I come back to, where's that something before? There we go. This little padlock here. Your website should show one of those. We still come across sites that don't have them, but really these days, every site should have one. They're free. Whoever's hosting your website can give you one. So do make sure it has that. It's important not to have any broken links. So if someone clicks on a link to, say, a CCTV page, and it then comes up with an error, this page cannot be found, that really, really harms your search ranking, because it's spotted. You've got to remember that the Google, they used to call them spiders, would sort of go through a website, looking at all the different pages, clicking on all the links, trying everything out, and they'll soon find if anything doesn't work. So it's important to double check there are no errors with your website. A good layout and a good user experience are key factors in sort of the technical side of search ranking. So people need to be able to find their way through a site. Google wants people to be on your site for a period of time. They don't want them to come to your website and then leave it after 30 seconds because it's a poor user experience. They can't find their way around. They want them to go to your website and it be the right result and then stay on there. If you think about it from the perspective of what they're trying to achieve, if someone searches for something, goes to their search page, the first link they click on takes them to the exact answer they want, then the person doing the searching is happy and will use Google again, and therefore Google is happy because they'll use them again, and eventually they'll click on an advert and they'll make some money. So a good layout, a good user experience is very important and really does help the search ranking. And also linking between pages helps, because it, as I mentioned before, on the on-page side of things, it shows what's important, what really matters. A couple of tools we use to look at loading speed and whether a site is mobile friendly or not. I'll just show you how they work. This one is free. It's called GT Metrics. We have a paid account for it, but you can do it for free. So I just ran through. It does take a minute or two to work. So I did run that ProTech site through, and what it's looking for is how quickly an image starts to appear and how quickly a site is loaded completely. So this one scores a little bit badly because 3 seconds before what they call largest contentful paint, i.e. when we're starting to get the main image showing up on the site, and it's quite slow before the whole thing loads. This test is looking at it as though someone is using fast internet from say a PC, and therefore it's as good as it gets. When you slow the internet down and someone's on a mobile, it's going to take a lot longer. So always we're looking for the quickest time, and personally it's around the 1 second mark is what we're trying to do there. 1 second, 3 seconds, doesn't matter if you've got fast internet connection, but if you're in the middle of nowhere on your mobile, 1 second suddenly becomes 10 seconds and 3 seconds becomes 30 seconds. And if you're standing there looking at your phone waiting for the website to arrive, you're going to close it and go somewhere else. You can look at something different. So speed matters when the internet isn't quite so good. There's also a simple mobile friendly test that Google do. These links, we'll share them with you, so you don't have to worry about trying to make a note of all of them. But you literally put your website URL in there in Google's mobile friendly test, and then you click on the run. And I've pre-done this because, again, it takes a little while to do. And you get a tick if the website is mobile friendly, and it will just show you what the mobile site looks like. So it's worth running GT metrics and mobile friendly sites tests on your website to be sure that everything is working okay there. Coming back to the site layout, user experience. This is key in two areas. One is it's got to work for search engines. Two is it's got to work for people. We typically go with a layout like this. So we're always thinking about the customer journey. Somebody arrives typically on a home page. First thing is they're interested in knowing what you do. Do you do what they want? Then they may want to have a look at what you've done in the past for others, possibly where you've done it. They may have a look at some news articles, what you've written about. And before they contact you, they probably want to know a bit more about your company, who you are, what you do, what your accreditations are, etc. And then they're ready to contact you. So people tend not to come to the homepage and then contact straight away. They tend to, move through. So we like to give them a sort of a progression through the site from left to right in the way that we read as they go across the website. In terms of what to actually have on the pages, though, you need to have one for each key service, but be careful not to have too many. There's some sites we come across that will have 12, 15, 20 service pages because they're trying to rank for every single thing. But for a person, it becomes too confusing. There's just too much choice there. There's no point if lots of people come to the website, but no one contacts you because it's all too confusing. You need to get people to come to the website, but then they've actually got to make an inquiry afterwards. So keeping the services simple helps. Case studies, particularly if you're aimed at a business to business, if you're looking for commercial customers, to show some examples of what you've done in the past. If you're doing burglar alarms for homeowners, doesn't really matter because they're more concerned that you're local and that you've had some good reviews, etc. But if you're doing a big access control system for a school, they probably want to see what you've done for some others. Location pages are really aimed at search results. So we're targeting places in location pages. We're not really aiming these at people. Yes, somebody might read through it, but these are really aimed at search results. So we had a page for a company like this, a fire and security company aimed at Leeds. In there, we're going to be talking about fire alarms, CCTV, access control, and so on. We're going to have a section for each of those. It's going to be quite a long page, and it's going to mention Leeds a number of times throughout, along with the different services provided. News can be literally anything. The longer, the more detailed, the better. And within the about section, within the about section, we tend to suggest breaking it into company information, possibly accreditations, and then if you're looking to recruit, having a careers page there as well. So that sort of layout works quite well because it's simple and therefore it appeals to people. It appeals to Google because there's an easy navigation between the pages. You can come to the menu and here's all the options, and then the pages link to each other. So you might have a case study here about a fire alarm installation, which then links back to here. Maybe it links over to one of the news articles as well. Maybe it links over to some information about the company. So it all works together. All these different pages are feeding into each other and helping each other. And that really will help no end with the search ranking. The next thing to mention on the technical side of SEO is what's called schema markup. Schema is structured data that helps search engines to understand the information on your website. So things like your company logo, your name, your website URL, company address, phone number, social media, and so on. It's all within the code of the website, but Google can look in there and they can see all this information in one place, easily accessible, and they can understand a bit more about your business and a bit more about your site and who you are and so on. There are some tools that we use that will make it easy to test what's there. There's one which is called a rich results test, which I'll show you in a second, and another that shows your schema markup. So if I just come back to my browser. So rather than keep picking on that company ProTech, I've done this one based on our own website. So this is the rich results test. And all you do is you put your website URL in there, you click on the run button, I think you just press return actually. And then after it's finished, and it takes a couple of minutes again, if you click on preview results, what it does is show you that based on the sort of the code within that page, this is how Google understands it to appear. So here's the title, here's the text. Google can read it, it can find our logo here, it can find the URL. As far as Google's concerned, it gets a tick because it sort of meets their requirements. Schema is a little bit different. This sort of checker, I'll share again. Schema is within the code of the website, and you can find it by looking at the code of your website. And there's things like down here, we've got all the social media links for our company. We've got a link to our logo. There's our phone number. It's a bit tricky to find it, but if you go to this schema checker under, in our case, professional service, it will show everything we've got listed. So here are all our social medias. There's our opening hours. phone number, company name. Down here, we've got the address, telephone, etc. So this is all in the code. This is not shown on the website. It's all in the code. And Google is using it as a reference that you are who you say you are, that all these details are all correct. So it needs to be part of your website. And the easiest way of checking if it's been done already or not when the website was built is to go to this schema validator and put your URL in there, and it will tell you if it's been done or not. As I mentioned, I'll share all these links with you, but a lot of these tools, we use them ourselves as a very quick way of understanding what's going on. Where are the initial problems? We have other tools we use that are, they're expensive, that run to hundreds or even thousands of pounds a month for more in-depth SEO analysis. But these are all free things that you can do very quickly and have a quick check on what's going on. And if something needs to be done, a lot of the time you can do it yourself rather than needing to pay somebody else to sort it out for you. Okay, so the next part of SEO is what we call off-page SEO. So this is everything outside the website. There's several parts to that. There's links from other websites to yours, which are called backlinks. And I'm not going to go into too much detail on these today because it's a huge area and very complex, but I'll just give you a few sort of a bit of an overview of it. There's also Google Business Profile, which used to be called Google My Business, which is Google's database of companies and the information on them it contains within. There are citations, which are directory listings, things like Yale.com, Facebook, 192, the phone book, anywhere that your company is listed online. Obviously, social media is another sort of off the website database of information about your company and what you're doing. And reviews are another one. So, and all these have a factor in your search ranking. So they all need to be considered and they all need to sort of work well. Backlinks, first of all, when Google started out, one of the key things they were using for ranking sites was how many other sites linked to them, on the basis that if lots of sites linked to a website, that website they were linking to must be a good site. And if no one linked to it, it probably wasn't very good. Back then, there were obviously lots and lots of sort of personal blogs, and people would say, oh, I've come across this site here, and would link to it. And they were using that as an indicator that a site was good rather than the actual content of the site itself. They still use backlinks a lot. And it is a complicated subject, how you get them. And I don't propose to go into that here because it will take a bit too long. But a couple of pointers on it. One is you only want good ones. Now, one thing you have to be very careful of is there's always a temptation to go and buy backlinks. There are companies on Fiverr.com and Upwork.com, people that will offer to create hundreds of backlinks to you, to your website, and they don't charge very much for it. However, what they're doing is they're using some questionable websites and they're linking from those back to yours. And the moment they do that, you get what are called toxic links, which sort of harm the authority of your website. So my only real point on backlinks, as far as this is concerned, is don't buy them. Don't go off and buy them from a questionable company, because you'll end up with a lot of rubbish, which will in turn hurt your website in the long run. At some point in the future, I will go into backlinks in more detail, but it's quite a complex area in terms of how you put together a strategy for creating them and generating them. What's a lot easier is claiming your Google Business Profile. Now, this used to be called Google My Business. They're changing the name at the moment, so you may know it as Google My Business. Every company should have one. And all you need to do to check you have got it and you've claimed it is search for your name in Google, click on Own This Business, and one of two things will happen. If it's already been claimed, it will show you a bit of the email address of who's claimed it. If you don't recognize that, then click on Request Access, and it will take you through a couple of screens for you to claim it yourself. If no one's claimed it before, then you can click on the Manage Now button, and it will again take you through a couple of screens to take over management of it. So the first step is to claim your Google Business Profile, your Google My Business Profile. Then you want to set it up properly, and you need to do a few things. You need to make sure the company name is correct and matches the website. So I've used this example here because I think everything's set up well. Use a local address, not a PO box. Preferably a local phone number rather than an 0800 or a 0345 or whatever. You need to have the website address on there, which is where at. There we go. That link there will open the website. And you want to upload photos. Google loves photos in their business profiles, and really as many as possible. Things like work you've done, staff, office, fans, all that kind of stuff. And ideally taken with a mobile phone, because when you take it with your mobile, it attaches what's called a geotag to it, which shows the location the photo was taken in. And by doing that and loading those photos onto your Google business profile, Google will keep on seeing the areas you're working in. So if you're in Manchester and most of your customers are in Manchester, they'll keep on seeing you appearing in Manchester and will know that for people searching in the Manchester area, you're a company that's very relevant to them. Last thing is to have your opening hours on here. And also in the background in your business profile, you can list the services and categories, services you offer and the categories that are relevant to your business. So it's not shown on the profile itself, but it's in the background, and Google uses it to understand more about your company. For electrical, fire and security companies, these are the main ones, as these 4 electrical ones. You don't have to have one, you can have 2 or 3, 4. So we typically say if you're an electrician, have electrical engineer, and then possibly electrical installation service. If you're just fire and security, there's 3 fire ones. If you're doing both services, then add on the other ones as well. So you have a primary category, and then you can have some additional categories below that. I mentioned citations being important, and these are directory listings. And what you want to do is have as many as possible across the internet. There's big ones like Yale, and there's Facebook, and there's LinkedIn, which all count as citations. But there's also lots of smaller ones, lots of local newspapers that have online records of businesses. And you want to be in as many of those as you possibly can, because they're all pointing back to your website, and Google will see them all and know that if you're in all these different directories, you're probably a good company, and they're okay showing you high up in search results because people are going to find you to be a good supplier of whatever services you're offering. The key thing with them is what's called NAP, name, address, phone number. Google is trying to make sure that these 3 things match in all the different citations they find. So make sure the company name is consistent. So don't be ABC CCTV in one place and ABC Limited in another place. Make sure you've got one company name that's shown in all these different directories. If there is incorrect information, change it, and if there are duplicates, replace them. It's a little bit easier said than done finding all the information about you on the internet. We have tools that do that. I suppose if you want help with it, then the easiest thing is just to contact us, and we could have a look and run a report and show you what directory listings you've got at the moment. That's probably the best way. And then you can always do it yourself by contacting them direct and asking them to change it, anything, or you can also add on new ones. We sort of do it for customers, but if you want us to run a report for you, more than happy, just send us an email and we'll have a look at that for you. Hopefully I won't get too many emails now for that. Last thing with SEO then is the local areas. So in and around where you're based, your local SEO. There's a few factors to that. It's a bit different to the main area of SEO in that Google cares how close you are to the person searching. So if someone is searching for an CCTV installer, on the Google Maps results, they're not going to show somebody 100 miles away because that's completely useless. They're going to show someone that's very close by, because people will typically want to deal with someone near to them if they're looking for a local result on the Maps listings. So how near you are to the person searching is a key factor. As well as that, the more general things we've already covered, how relevant your website is to what they're searching for. And also the things we've also been talking about, the authority of your business. So things like reviews are particularly important for local search results. External links to your website are important again. And if your name is mentioned online, if it crops up, quite regularly, that's sort of used as an indicator that you're a good company too. A few additional tips that can help with local search results. One is to use Google Maps for directions to your office. So it seems a bit daft because you know the way to the office, but every so often, search your company on Google and click on the directions button and then follow the map directions to get to work. It indicates to Google that people are using that Google business profile quite a lot, that are coming to your company quite regularly. And we ourselves, we do it. I mean, we've been to the office countless times and we know the way. However, every so often we'll use Google Maps to navigate to the office, and it sends a little indicator back to Google to say people are using the map to get to this business, and therefore this business is obviously trading, it's open, it's doing things. On the same theme, occasionally phone the office via Google My Business. So click on the phone link from there rather than just dialing it from your phone. Again, it shows that the company's open. And in the same theme, visit the website now and again from Google My Business. The point I mentioned before about taking photos on your phone, so it gets the geotag and load them up to Google My Business, because it will show where you're based, it will show where you're working, it will really, really help in the long run. So just sort of summing up the things I've covered today, hopefully you've got a better appreciation of what Google is looking for and what people are searching for, and the two are not necessarily the same. So you're doing one thing for Google, but then you're doing something else for real people, because there's no point being the first result in search results if no one actually contacts you. So you have to kind of balance the two. We've looked at the different types of SEO, so on-page, off-page, technical, and local area SEO, and hopefully you've got a better understanding of that. It is a big subject, and as I mentioned, I mean, we spend a huge amount of money every month on the tools we use to look at sites in great detail and work out the best plan for how we're going to improve their search results. But having said that, there are lots of things you can do yourself that you don't need to pay anyone else to do. And hopefully, what I've covered today will give you some ideas. And the key thing is to make sure that the words on your website are written well, there's enough of them, and that you have the keywords you want to rank for in the titles and the subtitles and in the actual text itself. And doing all those things will help no end. If you've got any questions, if you want to know a bit more, if there's anything I've covered that didn't quite make sense, then by all means give us a call. My email, chris@electricalmarketers.co.uk, or go to our website. There's a contact form on there. There's also on our website, we've got a little what we call our internet marketing checklist. It says on here electrical and security. It's actually for fire as well, and it's I think 4 pages long, just sort of the things that we think are most important in terms of online marketing for the sectors that we work in. And if you want to find that, just go onto the website. It's just under checklists, is in the resources section. And lastly, if you did need a bit more help with your online marketing, more than happy to do a free review of what you're doing at the moment, in which we look at your online visibility, your search ranking, and how you look for the key terms, the directory listings. I'm happy to do that for nothing. If you want, just send me an email over. We'll run a report of all your directory listings for you, and you can have a look at that yourself. And also we look at things like your reviews and reputation and so on, and how good your social media is, and your website itself. And if it would help, a review of your online marketing, there's no cost, there's no obligation. But again, on our website, electricalmarketers.co.uk/review, there's a little pop up there where you can just book a time for a quick chat on the phone, so we can understand what you're looking for, and then we can do a more detailed review on what you're doing, and some ideas on what you could do in the future to improve things. So I hope that's been useful. It's a lot to cover SEO. It's often shrouded in some degree of secrecy, because then people can charge more for SEO. But at the end of the day, it's most of it is very straightforward. It's about having good content and mentioning your keywords often, but not too much, in a way you would describe it to another person about what you do as a business. Yes, there's lots of companies out there that charge a lot of money for SEO and shroud it all in mystery about how they do things, but actually the basics are quite straightforward, and done well, it's incredibly effective and will result in lots more inquiries and interest and so on. So I hope that's been of use. We're recording this webinar anyway, so we'll send out a copy to a replay if there are any parts you want to go through in more detail. Thanks very much for your time.